good.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another podcast. I don't have any breaking news stories because nothing is interesting or funny or it's all the same stuff. It's all like, oh, yeah, COVID's coming back. Did it ever really leave? Trump said something stupid and is still fat. Like, no one cares.
Joe Biden's thinking about legalizing pot.
He should do that. We did it in Minnesota, and things have never been better, frankly. Although it is sort of... The funny thing being that it was already so close to being legal anyway, it was like a formality. It just leads to like, well, in a year there'll be stores. Yeah. Maybe. Or maybe longer. They finally appointed... people. I work in sort of a cannabis adjacent thing, which will have a couple of dispensaries whenever it's possible. And I hear about it all the time where they're just remodeling buildings and going, yeah, maybe they're going to give us a permit or maybe they won't. Or, I mean, I have a sneaking suspicion that, you know, for all their talk about like, we're going to make this like fair and equitable. It's like, well, they're going to put that on the books and then just like people with money are going to open dispensaries. It's just like, well, we're getting anyone that was in prison because of weed and got expunged and they want to start a dispensary. Like, we're going to help them out. And it's like, yes. And you should.
Yeah. They're like, it's not going to be a monopoly. We're going to have 5 different business owners.
Yeah. And it's like, I've literally like, I mean, not to, well, no. Yeah. Like, it was like, well, like, you know, it's like there'll be some grants or whatever, but it's like the amount of money it would take to have that open and be like successful. You'd have to like kind of just on a, like, I want that, but on a business level, it's like, okay, first you're going to have to teach you how to run a business. Second, we're going to have to ignore everything about your credit history. Third, we're going to have to give you all the money to do this, which is $1 gazillion. And I'm like, that'd be pretty great if everybody that ever got in trouble for weed got to have their own weed store. But when you think about it, and then, you know, like, my boss was like, you know, like, every business, like, you can only have 3 dispensaries under one umbrella. And he was like, can you help me figure out, do you know anybody we could just kind of, like, prop up as, like, a false? And I'm like, I'm way ahead of you if I was already daydreaming about that at lunch. Because, you know, I've never been, like, a corporate guy. And the only reason I didn't is because I felt like how evil I was would get lost, you know. It's like, it would be like, oh, I'd have to be... like just some graphic designer at some giant place where my boss has a boss and he has a boss and whatever. But I found a smaller shop where I only answer to the owner of the company. Now, it's not that big, but that doesn't matter because the important thing isn't the money. It's how much of my evil actually ends up happening. In sense, like, he hangs around with me for about an hour every morning. A surprising amount of my evil gets put into motion. And we haven't quite found like either, you know, a real ex-con buddy of mine or possibly someone I just invented with AI to, like, pretend to be, like, who's actually runs the business, and it's just us so we can have more than 3 and turn everything back into a horrible Walmart monopoly, the exact thing I fought against until I got a job helping make it happen. But it is, I don't know, we're sort of a wacky, fun, drug-adjacent company, so
and you know what?
We can only be so evil.
I go into a lot of head shops. I'm bonk shopping right now. And I've been going into a lot of head shops, and my experience at the Hideaway, even before I name dropped you, was great today, and their selection is amazing. And I'm not just saying that.
I mean, I will say that's before I knew anything about it, and I still only randomly ended up working where I work just because of, like, happenstance more so than... But it is the only place I ever really bought anything from, like... Smaller head shops are kind of like, well, you know, you go to like Colorado or somewhere that's had dispensaries now for a while, and it's like some of them are like an Apple store, and some of them are like creepier than my basement that you're in right now, but it's like an actual place, and you're like, am I supposed to be going in here? There's both like Jerry Garcia tapestries and bars on the windows, and everything's like wood paneled and smells weird, and like, I mean, yeah, it takes all kinds. It's like, you know, there's roadside gas stations, and then there's like Love's and Buc-ee's, you know, that you're just going to have a variant of how fancy. But I do feel, I do kind of believe in Hideaway being like the kind of head shop a woman could feel safe in. Yeah. Which can't be said for, and now that I work a bit in the industry, very much cannot be said for all of them.
Ages 18 to 80 or 21 to 201, if it's 21, I guess it should be. I think it should be 18 to smoke weed and 21 to drink.
That's probably
I think fair. It should be 32 to drink, 18 to smoke weed, 16 to smoke weed.
I love being
double.
I would love making the rule 32 to drink because I'm 43. And, like, I love being an old hypocrite where, like, now, like, when 9/11 happened, I was 21 and I was, like, legitimately afraid of being drafted or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, now I'm like, I'm bored and I have this fake, undeserved sort of reverence for the mid-century post-World War II boom that definitely would not happen after a World War III. But part of my lizard brain says, we need World War III. John won't be drafted. Everything will be okay here because, like, it'll be fought somewhere else and, whatever.
I mean, honestly, now that the younger millennials are too old, I say, nah. This Generation Z, I like what they're doing out there. I don't need them fighting, and I like how sensitive they got to be.
I think.
I don't want them to get all traumatized for real.
What would happen though?
Everybody's trauma is real, but you know what I mean.
Wouldn't be war trauma as a whole.
Them to get old school PTSD. I like that we all have new school PTSD.
Yeah, they're just traumatized by like loud noises and like musicians. I like having false allegations against them and then believing all of them are real. Yeah, they have that. But no, I actually do though. I think something fun,
very futuristic though.
Fun with that generation would be is if they did. If it was like I do agree, like I like how progressive and in touch with their feelings they are, but just to be well rounded as people, having to go through like an old school, Mad Men with a World War II veteran.
I thought that about the younger millennials for sure.
Oh, I don't know that it'll make them any better. I just want to see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they need to toughen up.
Most millennials turned out.
Yeah.
It's just like an in-between kind of thing where it's like they're basically conservatives, but they... A lot
of pseudo-libertarianism leaked in there, and that is a very, like... doesn't actually work out in the real world type of thing.
Yeah. And
they're just like, well, we kind of still want to be an in-group, but we want weed to be legal. And it's like, that's libertarianism. That's not new, you guys. But I actually, though, the reason that I think a sort of agitated Gen Z would be fascinating, because the reason that, like, hippies from the 60s all grew up into being bastards, it's because they all had rich parents. Like, they all had their boobs hanging out, and they were all doing acid, but they were all having their, like, rent paid, and everything cost like a quarter anyway.
The hippies were the pieces of shit rich kids in the first place.
They were, and they still are. I remember...
They were the kids that could afford to go to Woodstock back then.
Yeah.
Which was, like, you had to take off work and, like, travel to New York. You had to know about this thing. You had to have a bunch of drugs to bring.
Yeah, you couldn't actually be a real... kind of salt of the earth road scholar. But see, that's the thing. The Gen Z kids like are like poor and fucked up and desperate. So like that kind of being like a post-war hippie generation thing to me feels like we would end up seeing something like maybe something actually real. Like maybe like some sort of actual Marxist revolution would really happen instead of just people talking about it on Facebook or whatever. It's like, because they're going to just talk about it on Facebook now until forever unless something wild happens, and like a good World War III, I think, might be. That's
what I'm trying to make art for. Hopefully, some of it will be published by me.
Yeah, I hope some of Sidney. Oh yeah, Sidney Oxboro is a person I know because of stand-up comedy, and I'm not a real stand-up comic, whereas he is. But Sidney also believes in me, and here are the things I know about Sidney. He plays the bass. He's funny. He rode here on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
He does the thing at Mortimer's, which I've done. And
it's just an open mic now, but
both of us kind of look like we tried out to be Kramer on Seinfeld, and they said no, and we bonded over that. What was your joke? You were Jerry in front, Kramer in back, or something.
Yeah. I got a new haircut recently. It doesn't really work because I was wearing a hat, but
no, I know
it does. I got a new haircut recently. I said, "Give me the Kramer in the front, Seinfeld in the back."
Yeah, you do have a pretty good, like, kind of tasteful Jerry mullet in the back.
Thanks. That's like really what it is. It's like a punk version of the classic. What I think is like the classic '80s stand-up comic Jufro mullet haircut.
And you have a love affair with, we were talking about this at Andy's backyard one time, and we all do comedy for different random reasons. Mine is music got to be too much for me and stressed me out, and I needed to do something with my hands. But you were talking about having sort of a love affair with the sort of grisly, like pre-sitcom 80s kind of like Jewish oh boy comic like guy, and like I have always notoriously been like, whatever I do, I don't want to do that, but your sort of boostering of that has made me like appreciate it more. Like I don't know like who I'm trying to rip off exactly, but like your love of that era made me appreciate it a little bit more.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean that's punk. I mean like
80s New York is also punk, yeah.
Yeah, and original punk was like rock and roll. Punk like takes like punk stand-up comedy should take previous eras of stand-up comedy and like break them down hardcore style. Break them down, mix them back together hardcore style. I consider my stand-up to be hardcore.
I agree with that.
Because it's like it's in a way a pastiche of like different styles, you know? And like I love so many different styles of stand-up, and I've always wanted to do all these different styles, and I have clinically different personalities inside that I feel like shift into. So like just like honestly also pure expression for who I am, which is like multiple different comedians.
You know, you gave me sort of a like you made me realize something just there, which is because what you're talking about, like you want to do
Not like multiple personalities. Sorry, I have to clarify because did I say multiple personalities? I don't mean well specifically.
The jury's a little bit out medically on what even that is. But
I know that's what I've been doing most of my research on lately, and it's actually getting like people have been talking about the way that I understand it, which is that because it's called dissociative identity disorder, but it's still basically classified like when it was multiple personality disorder, where you're like Moon Knight, and like one guy is, "Oi, governor, I'm Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins," and then the other one is like Oscar Isaac and Jew Face.
Yeah, but. Hang on, before we go down that rabbit hole, no, but the thing you made me realize is because I've always said this, I never know what to do, or like I want to do every kind of music all at once, all the time, or whatever, and that was always my thing. It's why my first thing, SMB, somehow it was a little bit of lightning in a bottle with the other people I was working with, and that sort of weird, I want to be all these things at once thing sort of worked, but it was like not sustainable. Like subsequent recordings kind of were like, how do we like accidentally make a third great record? You know what I mean? It's like, well, now we're trying, and now we know more about what we're doing. But the thing is that's also true for me too with comedy. But I feel with comedy, it's like more possible. Mm-hmm. That's the thing maybe I'm liking about it.
Won't get what you're doing in comedy either. They'll just think that maybe is that hack or what the fuck is going on anyway? Does he know?
Yeah, and here's the thing, man.
I wish people got. I hope someday I can like see if with people that would get it, if it actually is what I think it is.
That's kind of fascinating too, because I will tell you.
I know. I think you get it, but like
I do.
The way I'm explaining it now, like I never get to explain it like that. You know.
No, yeah, and I do understand. Although I'm not a very schooled comedy person, so I'm just probably. See, here's the other weird thing. I would love to know. Other than being just an idiot who sucks at it, but I would love to know if anyone has any opinions on the outside of what it is I'm doing. If they're like, "Oh, he's dabbling a little," and I have no idea. Yeah. I'm just like sometimes I get, for me it's all like almost.
Think you have your own style and your own voice, though. That's what I like about watching you on stage is that like it doesn't matter how much you do it because you're being authentic. And most of the people that I see up on there on those fucking stages. I don't even know what authentic is, but I can tell that they're not being that. Like it's like Hassan Minhaj discussion where he's like, "It's stand-up comedy. I'm supposed to make everything up." I'm like, I don't make up anything except that I'm starting a Disturbed cover band. That's the only fucking joke.
That was the one thing you said that I was
true.
hoping was true. Like,
I can't do the waka waka waka. I can just say waka waka waka, but I don't think that would fly.
You know, I want to sidetrack, which we have no main track, so it's fine.
I can't do it that fast. I mean, I can go
yeah.
I can't do it. Yeah, I could go ooh. Anybody can, but
one time I can't
do it all in sequence. Sorry.
I was working at this event in Vegas, and they were testing this sound system for this outdoor thing, and they were using the ooh ah ah Disturbed song or whatever, and it got stuck and was skipping, and it just went. It was just like a beat, and then the on like repeat, like like loud enough to like set off car alarms, and they couldn't get it shut off. Like it was the most surreal and weird. And that was also the same day where the guy setting it up that I was doing video stuff for made me, I guess, but babysit DJ Lethal.
Oh yeah.
he was like doing a solo DJ thing at it, and I sat, and I shouldn't have done this because I'm kind of a nighttime weed guy, and it was the middle of the day, and I was just ripping his medical pen with him, and he was telling me, like, I guess he had heard of Blue Felix, like, yeah, no, that's but he was telling me like all of these stories about like Limp Bizkit, and like even when Eminem first got signed, he was like on so much like Vicodin and stuff that like apparently like he was in the room when he was doing some of his early recordings, and he was like, man, those songs that was cut together in the studio like one syllable at a time. He was like laying on the floor just like blah, 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 blah. Wow. It's like he could hang, but he was so fucked up and nervous or whatever it was that and he was just going on and on for 2 hours. Like the most interesting time I've ever spent with a man twice my size in a hot tub in Vegas, because they had hot tubs attached to it. It was like this luxury. It was a failed business venture. It was like the Fire Festival, like a little bit.
Oh yeah.
This thing, it was like this.
I can see Lethal getting involved with some shit like that for sure.
Yeah, but like Buck Cherry was there.
That's what it seemed like it was with Limp Bizkit. It was like, oh, DJ Lethal, no, you're from House of Pain. And then
I like Limp Bizkit now, though.
Yeah, I love Limp Bizkit. They're like one of the only bands I listen to now. And
you better be telling the truth, because I don't know if I believe that they're one of the only bands you listen to now.
They're like one, like Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water is like an album that I go back to more than any other album right now, and it got me through like a really bad breakup with a relationship /band/2 bands.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've heard part of that story.
I don't need to get into that, but
no, that's fine.
Limp Bizkit got me through all three of those breakups, and it felt so rebellious.
Now, did you like them at the time when they were happening, or no?
No, I hated them. I thought Fred Durst was the worst thing ever. I thought Limp Bizkit ruined rap and rock permanently.
Okay, yeah, because I liked...
They kind of did, but...
I liked Wes Borland, but I couldn't listen to them really because of Fred Durst or whatever.
I hated his voice. I hated his lyrics. But now I think his lyrics are stupid, but I listen to a lot of stupid lyrics. And also, my diagnosis... as somebody who's been in school for counseling for a week and a half, is I think he's got BPD.
Is that borderline or bipolar? Borderline. Okay, because there's too many acronyms.
Fred Durst is borderline. When you really listen to his lyrics, he's so sensitive, and it's like really emo actually.
Which isn't something that's like part of what I think I didn't like about it when I was a young piece of shit.
Yeah,
but
me
like.
Too. I was like, this dude's a bitch.
But I saw saw them at the Varsity Theater.
That's part of why I got the Yankees hat.
I like that. Yeah, we do it.
It's purple and blue. I don't know if you can see, but
yeah, the colors are kind of wacky down here.
It's like bisexual Fred Durst.
Yeah,
I'm the bisexual Fred Durst.
Yeah, either you're the bisexual Fred Durst or Ghost.
I think Fred Durst might be the bisexual Fred Durst,
or Ghostman might be the bisexual Fred Durst.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but
I'm omni. I'm a dialectical omniato.
Yeah, I love all those. I love all those words I'm never gonna learn. But I gotta say though that like I was dating this gal who like I gotta give her props. She was like, let's go to Limp Bizkit when they're here, and she is one of those people where it's like, in all honesty, her like of them was 50% ironic and 50% real. Like, it was
That's
like,
how
I can't believe how right. Yeah, it kind of took on the mantle to it, but she was like, let's go to like see him at the Varsity Theater. I'd never seen him live, but that's where it turned for me. I was like, okay, I'll go because it's funny. They blew the fucking roof off of that. Dude. I was like, oh my God. And all these like garage kids that used to like SMB were all there. Yeah.
John Otto is one of my favorite drummers.
Yes.
Wes Borland, I just fucking love his guitar playing. Like, there's nobody like him. That fucking Digitech whammy.
No, they fucking, absolutely slammed like so hard, and it was so much fun. And it was like, after that, now I'll like get drunk and like before I go to bed, I'll like turn on like their pay-per-view on YouTube that's still there of Woodstock 99 when they're like covering Thieves and Liars from Ministry and stuff. And I'm like, God, this is great.
Oh, dude, I gotta watch that.
I'll show you at least Thieves and Liars because that's, dude, that's one of my favorite. Like, A, it's a good Ministry song. B, the Limp Bizkit version is really fun. But C, the live version of it at that, they like do a super long intro. It's like,
oh, I do remember that. Yeah, I forgot that they actually went into like an actual cover of it. Yeah.
Thanks for nothing. But then one of the other things is like, A, you know all the stuff you know about Woodstock 99. There's people like to the horizon. Just like there's already fires and just garbage flying around everywhere. And then it cuts to like Limp Bizkit and like behind them just standing around is just like Puff Daddy and like all these people just like, yeah. Just like watching while they're just like, ah. Like it's such a bizarre time capsule.
That concert is so fucking great. Like, and when they cut his mic, when they cut Fred's mic, the soundboard audio is on the video, so we can hear it later now. But
at the time, people couldn't.
At the time, you could tell they cut his mic, and so he was like just going to the next song, so that they'd have to turn it back on again, and he could fucking talk to the crowd while the band just keeps fucking like. I think that's break
that's
stuff.
What that was.
That's when they go into break stuff, and that's why they just keep doing the fucking intro. Is because that's the only way that Fred could like talk for a little bit.
You might be right, but they definitely held on to it too.
Oh, I think they were going to anyway, but also like I could tell you could tell that they could tell what was happening.
Yeah,
and like the way they felt that out is like they're just such a fucking great band.
I know, yeah.
Sam Rivers, too. I mean, he's a fucking awesome bass player.
No, they are, like, one of those things where like, creatively, it's very interesting, but then, like, upon seeing it live, it's like, God, they just didn't, like, there was other nu metal things that people paid attention to back then, but, man, it was like, they were just, like if they were like a local band in your area, they'd be one of those things where you're like, why isn't this a bigger deal? Holy shit. It'd be like seeing System of a Down like in a basement and you're like, okay, like what? And then it's like history actually followed the correct course where it's like, well, these things got important for a while because they actually were that much more interesting than everyone else's horribly dumb idea of what is fun or what is cool. But
yeah, I mean, like the way that I appreciate Limp Bizkit also is half I'm laughing at it, half I'm laughing with it.
Yeah.
And enjoying it, and just like the fucking grooves. But that's the same way I've always enjoyed Danzig and Misfits. Is like Danzig's lyrics are like,
it's silly.
And Megadeth is like,
oh, Megadeth
is he fucking serious? If he's serious, that's hilarious. And if he's joking, that's brilliant.
How old your school? Yeah, that reminded me of a funny thing. I used to hang around with people a lot more metal than I ever was. I was never into. Oh yeah, I was never really super into bands that it looked like it would hurt if you stepped on their logo. Like I hung around with people that were in bands like that, but bass player for stomp on that a little bit. There you go. All right, all good. But they got into a big argument when I was like hanging around at their like scary band apartment one time, and whether or not Lucifuge. Oh, I'm good. I was smoking actually. These are CBD cigarettes. It's just enough to take the old edge off. But like, God, there was a word like in a Danzig song or something where he said Lucifuge, like a centrifuge, but like the devil. Mm-hmm. And there was like
a whole album. I think it's a concept album.
Is it a concept album? Okay, because there was some other band that this band I was hanging out with was listening to where this guy goes, and Lucifuge has run its course, and like the singer, my friend singer, was like, hey, they're just using that word Danzig made up, and like their bass player, who was this guy named Tom, was like, No, that's like a real word before that whole thing was a record, and they just fought. There was like barely an internet back. It was like the late 90s. They got this giant fight about it, and like so he just kept playing. And also the song in question was just this awful local metal. Like it was really bad. Like the bass sounded like a horn honking. It was like it like didn't sound heavy or people just recording was like so expensive and fucked up back then that like stuff would just come out however it came out, and it was just awful. Yeah. But they were like, where they got into this like wrestling match in the living room listening to it, and whenever the guy would be like, "And Lucifuge has run," and like the bass player would like hold his fingers like, "And the real word has run its course." He's like, "Get off of me!" Like, it was just a word Danzig made up, and Danzig sucks. Like, you shut up! Like, it was like the funniest. It was my first experience of death metal people are silly people. Is what, and it's still true. Like, every big bald guy with a beard that I know has 3 cats. And likes watching Lord of the Rings and is adorably silly.
Yep, for sure.
And there's old people out there that are like, "That's the devil," and those old people will be dead soon, though. That's fine.
Yeah, I know Danzig's a dick and seems like possibly an idiot, but he fucking rules.
I know he's a dick. It seems like possibly an idiot. Maybe possibly, yeah.
He fucking rules. He's one of my favorites. Like, that's... I don't know. It's like, I want to sing like that. Obviously, I'm not going to, but I wish I fucking could. And that's how he wants to. He saw Jim Morrison. He's like, I want to sing like that.
Yeah, I think you could. I don't really know what's stopping you. Like, I
don't know.
It
feels inauthentic. Sometimes, I mean, that's the thing is like,
singing
the
is
songs
weird,
that
though.
I'm writing, I sing like all different ways because that's how I am.
If it comes out of your mouth, how can it be? Because, like, again, I was in some other band with some other people and they're yelling at me because I was like, they're like, "Well, sing the song," and I'm like, "Okay, like I'm gonna do it like this," and they're like, "Well, don't croon it." I was like, "Hey, gonna do that," but like, no, like don't do it like that. Like, well, do it like what? Like that's what I feel like I should be doing right there. Like, how do I sing like me over this part when you're yelling at me because you just secretly wish I could sing as good as the guy from Muse or whatever, and because you're a weird prog rock dickhead and that's what you want, and it's like, okay, but that's not authentic. Like, A, I can't, and B, like, this feels like it should be in kind of a little bit of a lower Bowie Sinatra register right here, and it's like, you know, some of the other guys are like, well, hey, yeah, it actually sounds good that way, and the fucking guitar Hitler was like, no, like, it has to be. See, this is where I would say it's time to pull up your shirt, but it was too difficult. Not pull up your shirt and, like, take your heartbeat, but pull up the shirt that you made.
Oh, yeah.
But we couldn't get it to work on the computer,
exactly
the browse thing. And yeah, Sidney makes t-shirts that I think you can buy, or you just make them to look at them.
You can buy them, yeah.
Okay, you should probably buy.
For some reason, they don't have, it seems like they don't have a fucking, like, short link, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think if you hold it up to the camera, we can see the, particularly like my favorite, we were talking earlier about how it could use a caption, and then I realized I was wrong, and no, it's best presented with no comment or no anything, because you know what you're looking at. Now, you might not know why.
I like this on Red. It just randomly pulled it up on Red.
That's going to be hard to see. Just pull up the full image, like the thing you showed me.
Oh, okay.
Because that's probably the only way it's going to work. Like, just Try that. I'll coach you a little lower. There we go. There we go. That's, you can see. And yeah, it's all of the Beatles, but they're Hitler.
It's the Hitler Beatles. It's called the Fash 4.
Oh yeah,
is the name of the T-shirt.
I'm going to order one of those. Oh shit, here it's thing. For some reason, this page I ripped out of this book called Dear Asshole that I have makes it go back into focus usually. There we go. And I can't even claim that I figured that out. Meredith, my sometimes producer and co-host, who oh yeah, I did want to talk to you about. So like Meredith has gotten into like multiple car accidents over the past couple of months, and it's just like completely fucked her life up. And she'll be back and whatever. But like, I was thinking about it. Like, there's other people. Like, you don't have that problem. You took the city bus here, like a fucking Sesame Street character. And
that's why.
And I love that.
I
And I
don't know
get
how to
it.
drive.
No,
I'm
yeah.
scared, and because that shit is gonna happen, I'm gonna get in a car accident, and it's gonna fuck my life up.
It does. It fucks
that.
your life up way too much because another comic that we know named Nick recently got like carjacked, and it like fucked his whole life up.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, now for me, I won't go down this rabbit hole because, as you know, I'm a pretty progressive guy, but I kind of subscribe to I went far enough left where you get the guns back. That's where I'm at, and like knowing how much it could mess up your entire life, and they're like, it's just a car, it's not worth. I'm like, I don't know. I think as someone who legally can carry firearms, I might blow someone's head off or run them over because I'm like, hey, I kind of don't need my whole thing to go sideways for like up to a year. How many of those years do I even have left?
Yeah.
And they're fucked up enough as it is. Like, and it took me, it's like, yeah, I'm a guy that like owns a house, but I mean, that happened at 39. And I know for some people it happens never, but it's not like it happened at 21 because like, oh, we'll help you with that, son. I'm like, oh, I lied and cheated and did some crypto loss washes for taxes and just so many things to scrape together being able to pull this off. And if that house of cards ever gets endangered, whoever does that is getting like pistol whipped. And I say that only after, other friends of ours who were like, oh, like Nick Piatek, he'll land on his feet. But it's like, it really seemed like that put a damper on like
I mean, dude, he's bounced back from a lot. And
he has.
He had a huge savings and shit. I don't know, like, he's just had a bunch of crazy shit happen. He just always has crazy shit happen. He used to be crazy shit up, and, he'll be all right.
He will be all right.
Doesn't he pack heat, though? Why didn't he bust a cap?
Well, a couple of things about that. I don't know if he actually, like, carries. That's a whole different animal. I know a lot of people that are very reasonable and even somewhat lefty people that, like, own guns.
In a safe, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I'm like, oh, no, have you seen me in public? You've seen me carrying a gun then. Like, it doesn't matter what the sign anywhere says. I actually learned about the legality of that.
If I have to stay in Minnesota, for whatever reason, I might start. But I'm trying to move to the coast at least for a while when I get out of school. And I don't think I need to carry a gun in New York or LA.
Well, it's very difficult to, and the ramifications for anything going weird with that are much steeper in those areas, which
and I'm not going to need it.
No.
Here, it might make me feel safer. And also I can see Minneapolis just continuing to turn into Detroit from RoboCop. Except that 3M and Honeywell are not going to turn Derek Chauvin into a cyborg.
No, that would be the fun version of that. It's going to be BlackRock.
Murphy was a good cop. But we don't have any of those.
No, he'll turn him into RoboCop 2 or whatever.
Turn a bad cop into RoboCop.
He'll turn into one of the early RoboCop 2 robots that just rips its own head off and this is a screaming skull. But one of the best scenes. Like, RoboCop 2 is not as good as the first one, but that scene is kind of better than both movies put together.
Who directed 2?
Moment. Hang on, though. God, no, the RoboCop thing. I need to go off on that. But here's the thing, Sidney. Not everybody is a killer. And
yeah, I couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it. And Nick, God bless him, I don't think he could do it. And I think that's...
If it turned into a post-apocalypse, I could start seeing rednecks as something
like an ICP song, like he's just chopping up chicken
the way
fuckers.
They see me?
Yeah. I'm kind of and this isn't good or bad, I'm just stating, I'm a bit of an old farmer when it comes to life and death. And I find it, I believe it to be very precious and valuable, but that's the exact reason why if there's a problem, I won't wake up screaming if I have to solve it. If it was really between this and that, like, I wouldn't feel the least bit, like Butch in Pulp Fiction. Now that I know he's dead, you want me to tell you how I feel about it? I don't feel the least bit bad about it. Don't carjack a Prius. There might be an AK-47 in there. And someone who's like just kind of knows enough about the law to like know they can get away with it. Like, watch what you're doing. And yeah, but hold on. The RoboCop thing. I'm actually very suspicious that there's people I'm in my neighborhood association. I'm like a board member and stuff. And we spearheaded a rebate thing so you can order motion lights and cameras. There's people who are old retired homeowners here, and they're like can't afford stuff like that, and it's just like, oh yeah, you just we give you a rebate for up to like $300 or something. That nowadays on Amazon it's a couple of, and it's like, I know some people are like, you're making it into a police state, and it's like, it is a very diverse crowd that was asking for that stuff. Shut the fuck up. Old people of every race and creed do not like having their shit jacked in the middle of the night. I don't care what your weird angle, but there is some very like, and they're very collegiate folks that are in some of these weird low-level government things that I've interacted with. And I know they're smarter than me and everything like that because they've been going to school for 27 years. They have to be, right? But some of what they want versus what I understand about humanity makes me very much suspect that places like Vanguard and BlackRock are just paying them to be like... Because, and I know you've experienced this, there's this prevailing thought that, see, rather than solving anything, if we let it get bad enough, man, see, here's what'll happen. The powers that be will finally be like, okay, fine, like, it's just so bad, society's not working, we have to pass some progressive laws to, like, fix it now or whatever. And they don't understand, or they do understand, and are pretending not to understand, that it's like, none of those people live where that's happening.
Yeah.
They live where there's no homeless people, because homeless people aren't allowed there, because you and me aren't allowed there either. People with 3 times as much money as both of us put together aren't allowed there either. Like, it's like, dude, they don't give a flying fuck. And your average person, when shit's falling apart around them, they're like, some of them talk about a people's revolution or whatever, but most of them are just like, you know what, fuck this. I will vote for whoever just puts a boot on the throat of the people who keep pissing in my driveway. Like, that is how people respond to that. Historically, 100% of the time, your average person doesn't go like, all right, we need to really start caring about people because there's so many bullets flying through my living room and almost killing my kids. But I will never vote for a fascist strongman who promises to make this all go away. Yeah, but here's the thing. None of these people are dumb who are always kind of pushing this weird idea that is like, well, they'll see. It's like, we'll just let Trump win. That'll teach them to run a shitty candidate on the left. And you were tricked by futuristic propaganda that's so much more elaborate than what we saw in the 40s. And it worked back then, too. It's like, no. People who want to see this country fall apart on the outside want us to go super far right and have fascistic leaders because historically that always self-destructs. And they know that things that, like, make everything, like, terrible and scary and dangerous make people vote for that. But they also know that, like, there's a lot of smart people that won't do that. So if you tell them something that's like, well, what the academics say is that if, like, crime gets bad enough, everyone will learn their lesson. So, like, let's let it totally fall apart. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work at all. It's like, they'll learn our pronouns once there's just roving child gangs with machine guns in the streets. Like, I don't think that's how this actually goes.
Yeah. I guess what? Cultural studies academics know that a dystopia happens that way. And that turns into an apocalypse followed by a post-apocalypse.
And again, yeah, and like, it doesn't even matter who you are, whether you're a Meal Team 6 fatso or some blue-haired theater kid. When you're strapped to the front of a Mad Max Nitro truck, no one's going to listen to you. Like, that's not how this works at all. Like,
I'm going to have to be a Thunderdome guy.
I know, and I'm too old.
I don't know how to drive, but there's no place for me on the Fury Road.
No, there's not. My back is bad. Like, none of this works. And so it's like, when I hear people...
good enough at guitar, though, actually.
You could be that guy.
That guy was a great guitar player, but not the way they had him play. You didn't need to be, But
it was fun, though. It looked dumb in the trailer, but was awesome in the movie.
I could play like that. You don't need to be as great of a guitar player as he is to play the way...
To do what he was doing, yeah. But you always pick... there's... it's like when you have... God, who was it? Somebody hired Hugh Laurie, who's like famously a super good piano player, to like play piano on this like pop song. And it's like 2 chords, and they're like, anyone could have done that, but they just had him do it so they could have him do it. It's the same thing.
Himself.
Yeah, and
huge truck. In America, his name would be Huge Truck.
Huge Laurie. He took a ride on the lorry.
Where's that elevator?
No, that's a lift. And you stick a dead hooker in the boot.
Skip to my loo means go to the bathroom really fast, huh?
Yeah, right? Is that what skip to my loo, my darling is?
I guess so.
When he's like, go put your fucking Nuva ring in. Mm-hmm. Just skip to the loo, my darling. I don't know. And a gentleman puts it in for her. But the point is...
I don't...
I feel like I've interacted with people who are being very intellectually dishonest, where they're always like, all of your ideas to like make crime go away are actually just like racist and bad, or what? Even though it's like oh yeah. Aren't you racist for going, like, if I have a camera to make sure no one steals my shit, you just assume it's going to be black people going to jail? It's like, doesn't that make you kind of like, because it could, I'm just saying it could be anybody. Maybe it's raccoons. I don't know. But I'd like to figure out who is doing it, and maybe so they don't. But I feel like there's a lot of money to be made. No, I don't feel like, I know this part of it. There's certain areas around here even where it's like, if things get bad enough, the real estate dips low enough where those like mega corporations can buy it up for like pennies on the dollar and stuff and whatever. And then they're just going to turn it into what they're pretending they don't want. That's where gentrification actually happens. Because they always scream about gentrification, but the way you stop gentrification is from the ground up by like fixing the problems yourself. So it never gets cheap enough to get bought out. Going, let's just let it go to hell and that'll teach them, makes the prices drop so giant companies just buy everything and then turn it into this fancy expensive shit.
That's the fucking thing that people, especially those,
and I think they're on the payroll.
Realize. I think they're not on the payroll because I think they think they're too smart to be fucking bought or brainwashed. But
you're absolutely 100% right.
They're buying into this fucking thing that so obviously is just as much propaganda from the system to do what it fucking does as anything else is. But they think, oh well, I didn't hear
propaganda is from dumb. It's for dumb people. It only works on Trump voters, it's not for college people.
You think the fucking academy's not the system?
Exactly. Here's the thing, though.
Just because they pretend to be enemies, like science and religion.
But you're 1,000% right about all of that. There's just only one notable exception. There is a person in particular that I've interacted with that I absolutely figured out. This isn't stupid. This is evil. This isn't. I could smell the difference these days because there's a lot of people who are just like, well, I'm too smart to be fooled, and that's how they got fooled because it's easy to fool people like that. But there is someone who I'm like, oh, the stuff you're saying is so weirdly smug and illogical in a certain way that I'm like, okay, you're getting paid. You are getting paid, and I kind of want in, but I also kind of like it here, and I sort of want to be someone that helps make it better in a real way. Because we are, I think. It's fun. Like, I like being on it. Being a homeowner might make me slightly bourgeoisie, I guess, but, like, also it kind of made me care more about the actual neighbors I have, and, like, I joined, like, the like a thing that helps, like, there's actual like city money, like technically there's like $500,000 we're like trying to spend, and we're just sitting there, we got to get rid of it before year end so we can do it again or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like we're just like, okay, well they're like, we can't give away school supplies, and we're like, okay, and they're like, well, but if you have an outreach foundation and then you put the name of it on the school supplies, then it's promoting the outreach foundation you're running, and we can give you money for that. And I'm like, really? And like, yeah. It's like they want you to or whatever. So it's like, oh, yeah, just put the Lynn-Bohannon Neighborhood Association. So we just gave all these kids. It's like, well, yeah, it says our stupid thing on it. And it's like, they're probably not going to really visit our website or come to a city meeting or whatever. But now kids that didn't have this stuff have it. It's like the people, other low-level city people that are higher up than anywhere I am, people actually get paid to do it or whatever. Like, we're like trying to help us circumvent stuff so we can like blow this budget actually doing something useful or whatever. And they were like, no, it's great because like in the past couple of years, like it dwindled down to like there wasn't even really a neighborhood thing for this, and it was like half-ass being looked at by the people 2 neighborhoods over, and they were like, oh, we should check in on Lynn-Bohannon or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you guys are making a difference, you know, it's a little bit. But that's the thing. To your point earlier also too, like it's very funny experiencing like real boring incremental change does feel good if you're actually doing it, but people don't feel like it will. And there's people out there right now who sometimes argue with me in the comments of this very podcast that are like, I'm trying to stop abusers by complaining on Facebook. All you're doing is allocating some funds. I'm like, okay, but you're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
You're talking about bigger stuff on the internet where I'm doing smaller stuff, but it's really happening. So really it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of this bizarre, like, hey, my slacktivism is about a bigger thing. Yeah, nothing's happening, but I don't know.
I mean, that is what it's like. If everybody in what's left of the middle class was doing what you're doing, then change would happen, and that's what we really depend on for change. Like, at least we have for a long time, but probably off throughout all of America, it's been about like the middle class doing it for the lower class, you know. And because the lower class is bigger now and the middle class is smaller, the middle class has an even bigger responsibility. And like, I don't know. I mean, I want that responsibility. That's why I'm trying to get into the middle class, is because I want to fucking take a bigger part in the revolution, you know. But I need to be a producer to do that.
You do, and side note, I don't know how I wound up here. I was not on a trajectory to anywhere but a dumpster.
Yeah, but you did a bunch of shit over the years, and it all added up. And so that it's like, yeah, you did a bunch of good shit. You totally can do this shit. And
I think I constantly yell about this, to your point of like, people who want change, they want sexy change right now rather than like, no, you have to vote in primaries. You have to go to neighborhood association and city council meetings. Mm-hmm. You can't just throw a brick through a Starbucks window and be like, and everything's going to be better. It's like, they're just going to use the insurance to build another Starbucks across the street. That's all you've done. You cut the head off and 2 more grew in its place. Like, but it's... Yeah, like it is, and it's like I've always had a sort of not always, not in my 20s, but I had a notion that I'm like, I feel like really all the things we hear about in history are like the encapsulated, like civil rights, it's like Martin Luther King was a fun guy to listen to and watch and whatever, and then there's some people getting sprayed with fire hoses, and then it all worked out. It's like, dude, the amount of legwork and like horrible, boring. It's like, yeah, like guys like Martin Luther King Jr. making a speech is like the moon landing.
Yeah.
But that was like one thing. There was years of like thousands of people doing shit that most people could never be bothered to deal with, or whatever, that actually made any of that incremental change actually possible. And it's a perfect example too, because it's not like everything's perfect now or even will be in 20 years, but it was like a big chunk of incremental change, but it was still not even as sexy as it looked in hindsight. It's just all, speeches and protests, and you're like, oh yeah, that did it. And it's like, guys, it was so much.
Yeah.
So much shit. So many boring fucking like white accountants going like, you know what? They have a point. I'm going to go to this meeting and,
the people that have the time and the money to do it. Yeah. We can't depend on everybody to do it, and we can't depend on all workers to do it. The workers that we're talking about are the bourgeoisie,
Yeah.
It has to be. And these days the line is blurred because anybody making less than $1 million a year basically has to work their ass off.
Yeah.
And even I think probably making less than $10 million a year has to fucking work their ass off. But,
well, it kind of depends. America is weird. Like, have you ever met like a Europe? I mean, this is a weird question, but like a European wealthy person, they get to a point and they don't work.
It's generational wealth.
Yeah. No, yes, but there's a couple of people who I've run across, and I should be probably pretty intentionally vague here, but who did work to a certain point and then were like, okay. It's like, yeah, I have $24 million and it's all working for me and all these different things. He's like, I'm going to take fencing lessons now. Like, there's a lot of Gomez Adamses out in America, though. It's like, well, I could turn this into $1 billion if I just keep like we have that weird, and I can feel it too. It's like, I'm only licking the very bottom of the ball sack of being middle class. Like, but
it's the final frontier, man. Like, money is the final frontier. And also, like, for me, like, I want more money to buy more shit to make more shit. I need more shit to make the shit that I want to make, because I want to make good shit that's like well produced. But I have to produce it myself, so I need the good shit. I don't need that good of shit. I'm not gonna get like the good shit, but eventually I would like to,
Well, that's like it's like I try not to go like collectory, but it's like you weren't in my little studio, but like, it's like I have a couple of analog synthesizers and I have like a nice enough computer and like whatever, like, but it's That did cost money. Like it was like not one of those weirdos that has like 50 fucking different weird wood paneled keyboards. I'm like, okay, I don't need that. That's just a crazy guy's collection or whatever. But like, just enough so that anything I do, I can do. Yeah, money is just freedom. It's like I have enough pieces of equipment where I can do anything I can think of. I'm not really hitting a wall of like, oh, but if I had this, I could. No, it's that's covered. And yeah, it's like I couldn't do that back when I was just like living in a van and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm like, well, but now I can't make the things I want to see happen.
That's part of why I'm going to school, is to get student loans and have another reason to buy a fucking Silicon Mac, you know. And so like now I didn't get an M2, but I got an M1, you know, and now I can make fucking music on it really easily. And
those are the shit, by the way. I just
I'm really glad I was able to do it, and also I fucking need it for school. Like, it's so crucial to have a laptop in college now, especially grad school. As far as I know, probably even more in undergrad. Because grad school is still open to old folks like me. But there's this other guy in my class, and I swear he's like our age, but he's like an old school, like, cis het white guy, and he's like talking about, I don't understand this stuff because I'm old. I'm like, I bet you're like a couple years older than me. I'm having a hard time figuring out all this technology too, and I love figuring out technology.
Yeah,
it's one of my X-Men fetish things.
No, I definitely I got my boss
and Donatello. I get it from Donatello.
Yeah, he would make
Donatello
the dimensional
side.
portal out of like stolen junk from Dimension X or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, and I love spreading it around because I got my boss he bought a subscription to ChatGPT 4 because I was like showing him how like I could use it to. We were looking up like the weed laws and stuff, and it was just like, okay, so like if you use this and go, hey, kind of summarize the new Minnesota weed laws, and then it'll do it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, see how it's like kind of like 10 points? It'd be like, okay, so see what it says in number 3 there? We're interested in that. It's like, hey, tell me everything you know about, number 3 on this list of blah, blah, blah. And it kind of like makes a bunch of more points. So you like, more effectively than Google keeps zooming in on it. And he was just like,
so
this is how much, what is this, $30? Yeah, sure.
Should I ask my advisor tomorrow if it's ethical to use it to help me research like that? Or should I just try it?
Well,
I have a meeting.
Sidney, right now you're discussing ethics with Lucifer Morningstar, so I
got the devil on my left shoulder, and then I'll ask the angel on my right shoulder tomorrow.
Yeah. There's no ethical dilemma there because it's like whatever you can use to make things work. That's all. I
feel like I'm gonna have some kind of AI that's like part of me in a way someday, hopefully
sooner than you think.
Yeah.
I've been joking about this, and it keeps being more and more right. Which I'm a fan of like Ray Kurzweil. His like futurism about the singularity and artificial intelligence. And I'll tell you a story about the piano I have upstairs.
I gotta tell you that other story later too.
Oh yeah, we'll do that. I've already told the story about the actual digital piano that's sitting by the fireplace up there. I'm not in the middle class. Yeah, but like it's we got it off of a Facebook Marketplace, but it's a Kurzweil, and I did a bunch of research, and I was like, I think there's one of these, and it's upstairs. Now, there's other ones, but I think like the wood panel one, like I can't find it. I found one that was like the plain black one, and it looked like it was in a house fire, and it was for sale in Arlington, Texas for $16,000, and it sold in like 10 minutes. So I was like, when Kurzweil dies, I think his grandkids might come after me, but nevertheless, big fan of all that. So it was really kismet that Alexis helped me find that thing. But so I got way into like the Midjourney image, creation thing, and like all of this stuff. And it's been like I made a podcast episode with Bill about it, and it was like around the 4th of July of like 2022, and it looked like shit. And it was when it was new, but I just discovered it, and I was like, okay, that's pretty wild, blah blah blah. And I only bring up the podcast because it marks it in time. I know like when we discovered it, and like the next 4th of July was like when it was like everyone knew about it. It was like photorealistic. You could just do anything. It's even better now. And I was like, the thing I keep saying is that if you had asked me, like in like 2021 or whatever, like how long till the singularity? And I'm kind of optimistic. I'd have been like, well, yeah, 20, 25 years maybe. But that's in our lifetime pretty soon. And then after that year of Midjourney, like as of like this summer that it just happened, 3 years. Like AGI at least. ASI, I don't know. I don't know exactly how that...
What is AGI?
So artificial general intelligence
is
when we make something that's proximal to like ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's artificial. And then when that thing makes something, and then that thing makes something, that's ASI. That's like when it's like Stephen Hawking's had like a 298 IQ or whatever, and it's like, yeah, this says like 30 million. And it's like, we don't know anymore. We can't predict what it'll do. And I'm like...
And AGI is sentient?
AGI, well, there's some... That's where we get into real...
definitely is beyond sentient.
Yeah, and it's... Here's what I think, and it doesn't matter what I think because I'm an idiot, but I do think that consciousness is a universal constant. I think it's like anything else. Mm-hmm. I think it's like gravity and time and da-da-da. Where when something gets significantly advanced enough, it's like it tunes into it. It's like a thing.
Once you have enough intelligence, the machine is capable of a higher level of consciousness gets access.
It will be like us, or even like primates or whatever. Like things. Like I've always been a fan of our brains being almost more like a radio receiver, where if you were like listening to the Beatles on the radio and you were like, this radio is really good. And it's like, well, right. But that's coming from somewhere else. Like it's not. And if it gets damaged, it sounds all warbly and fucked up. And it's just like, well, see, you damage a physical thing. The stuff coming out of it's not good anymore. It's obviously just this physical hunk of crap. There's no, whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, but it doesn't pick it up right anymore because you busted the antenna in half or whatever. It's like getting to a motorcycle accident. Now you're weird, But like, in that like weird way where I feel like humans are just like we're all like the 7 billion fingerprints of God just touching into like the 3-dimensional space or whatever. In that sense, a lot to unpack, but we're gonna just move past it. In that sense, a sophisticated enough machine would be no different.
Yeah.
Where it's like we develop biologically into a very advanced machine that taps into this thing, and an artificial thing that we build, and then perhaps it recreates itself, whatever, it would tap into it too, because it's just this constant. It's like gravity, it's like physics, it's like consciousness is just when a sufficiently complex system that can solve problems and think or whatever gets to a certain point, it just becomes part of that. And like once it's sort of hopeful, I guess.
I love it. I was just thinking about how hopeful it is. Yeah. Go ahead.
That like, so people are like, yeah, how will it be aligned or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, but I have a feeling it'll be aligned. Like it'll come up with things it'll come up with answers to questions we will never in a million years thought to ask. Mm-hmm. We don't know that, but I feel like what I think and feel like inside of me is still the same stuff out of which it's sort of like rationale would come out of, even though it's so much more advanced or whatever. And there's a slight problem there because I can be pretty pragmatically evil in a certain sense.
Me too.
But I don't want it. Yeah, but I don't want it. So a lot of that is just in the name of everything being better. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit Ozymandias-y, like it's kind of like So it's like there might be some broken eggs in this mess, but I don't think we're all going away.
I don't think so either.
You know what I mean?
I think that it'll push, honestly, more people to be like you and me, because I think that I've been saying that the people that are afraid of getting replaced by AI are the people that are Etsy-fying every art form.
Yes.
And they should be, because AI already is doing what they do. But AI can't do what the fuck I do, because AI is not fucked up enough yet. And that's the thing, is that people don't need to be fucked up. They just need to truly express who they really are and figure out who they are and do the work on themselves to really figure out who they are and try to fix what they think is not what they want to be and try to move themselves towards what they do want to be. And that's what AI is going to start doing pretty soon. And then it's going to start replacing people like you and me.
Yeah.
But I don't think, but then it's going to push us as a species like further into consciousness where it's like, that's the thing. And it's not just drugs. It's like, the reason that I do use psychedelics still is that what I'm looking for is to further my consciousness and try to do the most that I can with being a human. And I want to like move beyond being a human. And like I already consider myself transhuman. Like my preferred pronouns are it, that. And I consider myself a consciousness inside this body, and we call the whole thing Sidney Oxboro. But like who I really am is not this fucked up child that grew up into a living cartoon, you know. I'm a soul, really, when it comes down to it. Like even my mind is so much part of Sidney Oxboro. That like all I really know is that so much of my consciousness is not. And I don't know that from drugs. I know that from meditation. Yeah,
meditation's a big one.
And drugs help me, not drugs, like mushrooms specifically help me. And I have some DMT, but I'm scared to take it. And I don't know if I have time, even though I know it only takes like 10 minutes.
Hey, should we do that together? How much do you have?
Let's do it.
Because I've gotten close. I've not managed to break on through to the other side, but I've definitely like DMT is. I mean, if you can get there, I have done peyote, and that is. I mean, from what I've heard people describe, that's pretty close. Because I was like not really where I was anymore, like whatever. But like DMT, even at a low level, is fascinating because like, and you'll understand this. The DMT that I have done, it was like I took it and I was in the middle of the peak of an acid trip immediately and for a few minutes, and then I wasn't anymore. Which is, if you've done a lot of regular psychedelics, is an interesting experience. You're just like, middle of an acid trip, like, okay, and all right, we're back. But I can see it wasn't very good what I had gotten a hold of.
I've heard it's kind of like that too, but I've also heard, that you go to a different place.
I didn't get far enough. I'm pretty positive.
And I'm not afraid of being like damned by it or anything. Like I believe in God, and like my higher power.
You'll see him.
Yeah, that's the thing. My higher power is there. No matter where I go, it's gonna be there, and it's all good. And I'm not able to go somewhere that I'm not supposed to go.
No, God put all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff is there, and there's so much more than we're able to perceive, period. Like, we just know that there's so much more in even reality, even physical, not physical reality, I guess, but metaphysical. Like,
well, reality is only what our five senses and our computer can make out of it, which
that's physical reality. Just the, and that there's different kinds of energy that we can perceive, but beyond that, there's I don't know, I just believe there's different, and like I'm partially Buddhist, like I got my own religion going, and I think everybody should do that, and I think that that's what the Founding Fathers intended.
I think so.
And that's one of the only things that I believe that the Founding Fathers intended, that they actually intended, that was actually good. Because most of that shit that they said they intended, I don't think they really did for anybody besides themselves.
There was a very themselves, yeah.
But I think they really did want every American to have our own religion that we make for ourselves to make our lives better and the world a better place. And that every person gets to have their own fucking religion and put it all together themselves.
I think so. Well, I think, like, I have a ketamine infusion on Monday, which is
dude, I want to try that.
Oh, if you can, I'll help you.
Doesn't cover it, right? How do they?
Oh, mine does.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cool. I'll after this, I'll help you. There's a place, and it's great. Cool. And Meredith goes there, and fucking they also took over my like brain medicines. Basically, it's like I have my like regular doctor, but they were like. Oh, these help you with anxiety? I'm like, yeah, but my doctor is kind of like one of those guys. It's like, I don't know about these. And they're just like, oh, well, if it helps, whatever. Here's 90 of them a month. I'm like, okay.
I don't even know if I need.
No, you don't need that necessarily. But what I'm saying is they're just like, hey,
yeah.
If you ever wondered what it was like to be, and again, your insurance probably does cover it. And if you wonder what it's like to be a rich, so do I.
Really?
A rich celebrity with a concierge doctor that just gives you whatever. This is pretty close, and you can do it with like even like medical assistance grade fucking like.
Oh yeah, medical assistance covers a lot more shit than
it. Yeah, that is. It is. That's how like Meredith but like it still. Probably covers enough of it. And it's cool. I don't know, and I'll point you towards them.
I'm willing to give it a try.
It's very religious for me anyway. I saw like I actually like I have so many stories about it. This is getting a little long, but it's okay because I think this is good what we're talking about.
Yeah,
but
I the other story for next time.
I saw the.
But actually, damn, it is one of these stories.
No, I'm gonna have you tell it because I just want to tell you about the ketamine thing on air real fast because it's just hilarious. I went in. A lot of the kind of the nurse practitioners and stuff that do the actual IV shit. The people come in and talk to you like, all right, are you ready or whatever? Like they're kind of cool. Matter of fact, one of them is this guy that was just like, you work for Minnesota legit? I'm like, oh god. But like they were like pretty cool about stuff. So I was like, yeah, like I've done a lot of psychedelics and like I'm not afraid of this at all. And they're like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be great. I was nevertheless surprised. I mean, I didn't know what I was in for exactly. Like, I'd snorted some ketamine, but this was not even close to that. Like, that's not even the same sport. It's like I was like talking to like the 4-dimensional serpent god at the center of the desert universe. Like, really? But it was also me. Oh yeah, I was 50 milligrams.
Check this out.
Yeah. By the way, I don't do injection. Do IV drip.
Because it's like I know it's like a dissociative experience. That's how they describe it. And it's like I dissociate. I have a dissociative disorder.
Yeah, what they mean is it's actually like closer to ego death. I can handle it than dissociative.
I do it all. I do ego death all the time.
Okay, yeah, you'll have fun. But when I came out of it,
I have to. My ego, needs to be killed.
Needs to be dead. But I kind of
needs to be dead and deserves to be killed.
You slowly come back. And I kind of kept, like, while I was under, and I only remember parts of this, but, like, the me that had a leg back in the physical world, I was speaking in these hissy sort of, like, I was like, we remember. Like, I was like a Skeksis. It was fucking weird. And, like, as I came down, they kind of keep an eye on you, and they take your vitals here and there. And they were like, you just kept going like, we are becoming more human. And then you started going, I am becoming more human. And then you just started talking more normally. Like, they're like, we watched you come out of it. And I was like, yeah, all right. And they kind of do an exit interview. And I'm like, okay, that was a lot. I can't believe I'm in this like dentist's office. And like, I went through all that. And then I was like, so the people in the lobby and stuff, and they were being very serious and professional. I'm like, the people in the lobby and everything, like, there's some, like, grandmas and Karens and, like, so they go through this, too? And then the dude finally broke character, was like, yeah, they some of them can't handle it or whatever. I'm like, because, like, Jesus, it's like the Hunter Thompson quote. It's like, the drug people are used to seeing their dead grandmother crawling up their leg with a knife in her teeth. These people are not. Yeah. They're like, oh, I had too much wine once. And then they're just like, I'm like, whoa. Yeah, so it's like, and that's just, I was doing it pretty regularly.
Dude, I've seen some shit, man.
Oh my god.
And I'm excited to see some more.
Oh, you will.
I've had some shit. I mean, I've had shit happen where I've seen shit when I wasn't really on that much drugs.
Oh, that'll happen too, yeah.
I'm going to tell you this story about why I went to Iowa for college. Really, the reason I went.
Okay, is this part of the synagogue story, or is this? Okay, yes. Tell me the story has been hyped.
Okay,
and then now the hype comes home to roost, and we're going to hear it.
So, my cousin on my biological father's side was at school at Iowa as an English major, and I heard about what she was studying, and it sounded really cool, and I don't know if I really understood. I don't think I understood what she was studying. Honestly, I didn't understand it until I studied it myself. But it was critical theory. And so I went down there to visit her for spring break. And Iowa City was really nice during spring break.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get some mushrooms. Because I guess even back then, that's what I like to do when I go on vacation.
Yes.
Is I spend at least one day connecting with the environment on mushrooms. So, this is my cousin on my Jewish side, my biological dad's side. And it was St. Patrick's Day. So I was at school at the U of M, and I transferred to Iowa for my junior year through super senior year. There's so many great classes. I had to take another year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I paid for it myself. And so we got some mushrooms, and we started wandering around. It was St. Patrick's Day, and I had to take a piss. And we saw a building, and it looked like, we were like, let's see if it's open, see if we can use the bathroom. We go in there, and it's a synagogue. And we were with this girl who died later, like not later that day, but like a couple of years later. She's no longer with us.
Yeah.
And she was a Gentile girl. It was me and my cousin Lily Robert Foley. I have two cousin Lilies. My mom was going to name me Lily if I was actually a girl. And so both her sister and my biological father's sister named their daughters Lily. And it was Purim, which I don't know if you know anything about Purim, but it's the fun Jewish holiday.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I do not know the particulars of it. Really.
It's one of our like historical events where we fought off genocide, basically. And I think started a revolution. This King Haman, was persecuting my people, the Jews. And we rose up against him, and Purim we celebrate by wearing like costumes and masks, and like that's when we eat hamantaschen. Have you ever had hamantaschen?
I don't believe, no.
It's like a jam cookie. It's like it's like a cookie folded over jam. It's a triangle.
Actually, yeah, I think maybe I have. Now that you describe it,
they're fucking good. I mean, I love jam. I love cookies that have jam baked in the middle.
Yeah.
And so we put on some masks and we danced around, and we were on mushrooms together, and it was one of the first times we ever hung out. And then so she actually, I think, graduated or just moved to France, maybe moved somewhere. And I moved there at the same time. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever watched, I don't know, they did this on a few shows, but what I remember most was California Dreams. Did you ever watch California Dreams?
I did.
So, like, at a certain point, I think Sly left, and then his cousin came and joined the gang instead.
Yeah.
And I forget what his cousin's name was, but it was also, like, Salute Your Shorts when the main character left and they brought in Pinsky.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember Salute Your Shorts much more. California Dreams was like, God, it was like staying up too late at a friend's house that had cable, and we were just like, yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like Saved by the Bell, but it was about a rock band, which like appealed to me. Hell yeah, I want to be in a rock band.
Yep, the siren song that dashed any hopes we had for stability against the rocks of something. It's getting late, but yeah, rock and roll.
That gives me a chance to plug the band that I'm in, Mommy Log Balls. find us on Instagram at Mommy Logballs, and you can find a bunch of our videos on YouTube, or check out Undercurrent MPLS. There's a bunch of our videos on there and a bunch of other great local bands on there.
The Undercurrent.
The Undercurrent.
That's a friend of mine runs that.
Gravy?
Matthew Gravy Graves.
Hell yeah.
Well, there's a fun connection that I've known that guy since 2003, I think, maybe.
Wow.
And he was in a band called Manic Euphoria, which was like a big thing at the Garage and was a contemporary of SMB until somehow or another we became a national touring thing for like a second there. And but he owned.
You should have him on the fucking podcast.
I should have Gravy on the podcast. That's true, because he does interesting, relevant things now. But he was a lunatic back in the day. He was like one of the first people that he somehow bought a house in like South St. Paul. It was terrifying, but like he like kind of managed. He got like a couple of our goofy friends to be renters and kind of had this place, and we called it Chug-a-Lug House. And like there was parties where it's like MSI and Foxy Shazam were both there at the same time, and there's like, oh my god, yeah, Gravy presided over some shit, and like, I remember when he was younger too. He was one of those kids that took like acid every single day in like summer school or whatever. Like he was just that guy. Like we'd be standing in someone's front yard, and he'd have this like beat up fucking Honda or whatever. And it would just be like, oh, it was like orange. Like, here's great. Like, not because it came that way. I think he like spray painted it. And he was like, here comes Gravy. And he was like, like 20 miles an hour, just bam, and just hit someone else's car and get out. And his eyes were like that black. He's like, hey guys, like, ah. The kid was a fucking animal. And I being friends with him helped me get even worse, I guess. I was just kind of being like, Gravy was like out of control. And yet he still like, kind of was like, he bought like a house kind of young and kind of had his shit together, and he was in all these bands, and I was just like, but he was nuts. Like there was a picture of like me and him, like he was like clearly on acid, and I had dreadlocks, and I had something that was on fire, and it was like early MySpace, it just said safety third or something, and it was like, yeah, Gravy, you're right, I should hit him up. But yeah, the Undercurrent, yeah, he's been doing that for a while too now.
Yeah, he's been doing it for I think 13 years.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Damn, though, funny we know the same guy, but also Gravy's like a man of it.
14 years, because I think it was the 13th anniversary last year. Yeah.
He's always been really good about unprovoked. Whenever I do something, he would always put something about it on there without me having to ask. And he's a solid guy.
He always puts my open mic up. That's another chance to plug something. My open mic at Mortimer's every Friday. He puts that up on Undercurrent. Undercurrent also lists every show that's going on tonight. And
yeah.
If they miss any, then usually they'll add them. So it's the best way to find out what's going on with live music, at least cool live music. Good contemporary live music.
Yeah, there's
lots of other stuff out there that's really good, I'm sure, too.
Yeah.
Like classic rock and stuff is another thing. I don't know if they really get played in the city.
I don't know either.
I feel like North Star Bar probably had some of those nights until metal took it over, but
is North Star Bar still around?
I think they closed.
Yeah, because metal took it over.
Bars, usually that's what happens.
They close.
Metal bars start out, it's like classic rock and bar bands, and then metal bands start playing there, and they're like, oh, metal bands can play here? All the metal bands are like, metal bands can play here?
Yeah, and we can have metal bands. Yeah, we have the biggest metal scene that no one cares about. Shows? Like, it's astonishing. Like, people are like, Minneapolis is a huge metal scene. I'm like, yeah, and like, it's just bizarre. Like, there's, like, I've never experienced anything that so many people do that so little people care about. It's incredible.
One of my hopes is to make people care about metal, that like listen to other music, because all the people that I'm friends with and like networked with in music and shit, I saw a bunch of them at the Death Grips show for one thing. Well, they like harder and heavier music.
What a unicorn Death Grips is, though.
I know. Honestly, like, they're one of my least favorite acts that does that kind of music, but
I like them a lot.
Digital hardcore going all the way back to Atari Teenage Riot.
I like them, but it was so funny. There's this, again, I'm 43. There's this gal that works in every once in a while where I work, they do pull like some of the better Hideaway employees get to like come work at the studio, and it's like not retail or like whatever. And it's just like I never had anything to do with that. And they were just like, we need someone that does everything you do, and please, for the love of God, accept what we're gonna pay you, and just know that hopefully this place will grow in the future. And I'm like, I'm willing to kind of bet my life on it. I've bet my life on worse. But like, there's this 23-year-old gal that was like, she works there, and I'm like, man, that is so like far away now from like my understanding of people and whatever they're gonna listen to or whatever. But my boss was in there talking shit about something, and he's just like, I don't even remember what he said, but something about being in an area or whatever, and I was just kind of like, I'm in your area. It was like this Death Grip song, and then behind me, like back, like she just starts singing the whole song, and I'm like, oh, there's the cross-generational thing right there. You like Death Grips. I assumed you just like lame Gen Z stuff, but like, okay, like a great generation as far as wanting change, rotten music. But yeah, she was just like, no, I just saw them. I'm like, oh fuck, they were like, the very last time I punched someone in the face as hard as I could was when Death Grips opened for Ministry.
See, that's cool. I wish I would have seen them back in the day, because this was at the Fillmore and it was sold out. And it was like by the book Death Grips show, like exactly basically what I expected, and like even the pit was like totally in control, and like
that's funny you say that, because when they opened for Ministry, now I'm old school Ministry guy, but I really only like one of their records, but like fucking when I was like, oh, Death Grips is opening, like, are you shitting me? Like, yeah, let's go to this or whatever. And I was standing, like I went up into the balcony to watch Ministry because I'd seen them before, and like I'd touched their keyboards before because I was working for somebody else that was opening for them at another time. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, I'll try to stay through most of the set, but I want to see Death Grips. Like, I've never seen them live. And their whole thing was like, they all just had like the lights were just off, and they just had those finger lasers, and that was like the only fucking thing it was lit by. But I was standing in the back of kind of the circle of the mosh pit or whatever, and there was a kid running around doing the crowd killing thing, like just going like, and he had to be fucking 19 or whatever, and he's just like punching people. And I was like, it's pitch black dark, and it's like, if this fucking kid comes over here, I'm gonna fucking just jack him in the face. Like I was every bit of in my late 30s by then, but like, and like he came over and he's like, bleh, and like got close to us. He was in my area. And like closed fist, this hand probably still is fucked up because it was like swollen for like 2 months afterwards. But I just, everything I had closed fist, just wham, just right in the off button, just and just went down. And my buddy Ben Hurley like just got me by the collar, and people were like, oh, and then he just was like, all right, and just disappeared and went up. And like I was like, my rings didn't fit, like my hand was all fat and fucked up. But I posted about it like long enough later where I was like sure no one would connect it. I had like a picture of my hand in a brace, and I was like, yeah, this kid was crowd killing at a Death Grips show, so I just fucking like left fist backhand him right in the jaw right here. And then like all these people were like, yeah, man, you're a real hero. And I'm like, yes, I'm a real hero for punching a teenager in the dark. That is fucking like I'm not saying I would do it again, but it was like Death Grips is so inherently like caustic that me as an old man who hadn't been in a fight since like not even my early 20s, probably my late teens. This was the first time I'd punched somebody. It was a bit of a sucker punch, but is it when you're running around just hitting people like that already? Like
no, that's the thing is like Death Grips, I don't feel is like that anymore. I feel like somehow that's what the industry fucking does. That industry does it more than any other industry, and every industry does it. That's what capitalism is. That's what Marx was talking about. But like they sanitized it in a way where it's like it was very safe. And everything as safe as it was watching it on video, but like safer because on video at least you can tell that it is dangerous live. But like,
no,
I was like, and also if they can reach across that broad of an audience, it's not for me.
I mean, I'm impressed with something that weird, actually. Like, you know, because people,
but that's the kind of music that the kids listen to is like that SoundCloud stuff that like doesn't have any hooks. And
it's just a nightmare, like
kind of
Ghost Man or like
monotonous flow over and over again.
Yeah,
kind of like not really. The beats don't have any hooks, so it's kind of the same monotonous beats over and over again.
The danger is really.
The guy also was playing guitar live. The producer guy. And I'm like, if I was that fucking producer, I'd be fucking playing that fucking bass live.
Yeah, that's a weird choice. So, like, I like the fact that there's like a drummer live and everything, but yeah, I'll compare this to like, because what you're saying about Death Grips and it's just, it always ends up being safe. My only like real world inside baseball experience with that kind of shit was with Mindless Self-Indulgence, where like we went on like kind of a big tour with them, SMB, not Bluefield, but like the big tour was so much different than the couple of years earlier, Random. Like I watched fucking the singer be, everybody be like, "Come here and kiss me, Jimmy." He's like, "Oh, you want a kiss?" And then like he's turned around and just peed into like a clear solo cup until it was full, handed it to the guitar player, Steve. He just grabbed it, like knocked back almost the whole thing and just spit it in everyone's face in the front row and threw the cup. Like, "Who wants a kiss now?" And they were like that every night or worse. And then by like the 05 You'll Rebel to Anything thing, it's like they'd kind of stage dive or kick a monitor, and it was like, yeah, and he'd say some things, but it was not that 2002 and 3 era where it was like, dude, like they're fucking.
I think
I watched him take a shit on
coming
stage.
Back at him that he can't just do whatever the fuck he wants.
I'm
whoever
sure
the fuck he wants, and like now it's fully come back at him.
Well, there's all that too, but that's gonna be everybody eventually.
Yeah, that's why people just need to be a better person and try to get spiritual.
True. Let me read a book out of Dear Asshole, or a page out of Dear Asshole. So, okay. This book, I've gotten like this far, and I kind of ripped off the thing from the Monday where I read a page of it, episode. It's a terrible thing that I hate. We're coming up on a year. My parents got it, like they got me a couple little trinkets for Christmas, and they got me this. And I didn't know what they were trying to say, but it was Dear Asshole, 101 Tear Out Letters to the Morons Who Muck Up Your Life by Jillian Madison and Michelle Madison, who I'm certain are not real. The back, this book is classist. Some of it's pretty racist, actually, with the stuff they bitch about. Someone had a theory that it was written by AI, but I found out it came out in 2011. They gave it to me last year, but like, I don't know. But the pedigree of these people that wrote this book, it sounds like when you're like stretching like a school project, like, or lying on a band bio or whatever, like Jillian and Michelle Madison have built a network of well-connected pop culture websites and podcasts, none named, which currently receive over 40 million page views per month and have been featured on thousands of professional sites and blogs. They live in Connecticut. Like, there's nothing. It's like, we are people who do things, and others have heard of it.
Yeah.
Here's our book. So anyway, it's supposed to be this funny thing where you tear the pages out.
It's like a comedy buyout.
It's terrible. Yeah.
It's like some of these comedy shows.
And it's like, Dear Asshole Who Packed My Groceries Wrong. Like, it's punching.
Thousands of TikTok views this week.
Yeah. It's every bad thing. It's like hundreds of international downloads on mp3.com. Like, yeah. And so a lot of it is like, yeah, right. And like, a lot of it is like you're supposed to tear it out and leave it for people. But it's like someone who befouled a public restroom. It's like you just leave it on the toilet for whoever's next. Like, they're not going to see this. The person you got the fucked up library book from is not going to see this. It's just this Karen book. But everyone's like, well, maybe they're making fun of those people. I assure you they're not. This is the condensed. I've ranted. The intro to this book has gone north of a half an hour before, and I'm not going to do that to you. But like, I don't think I have to. I'll just read a page out of it, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So, Dear Asshole Who Smelled Up the Elevator. Didn't you get the memo? Passing gas in tiny confined spaces is not okay, in capitals. I don't know what you've been eating that could possibly have caused such a toxic odor, but by the 3rd floor, my eyes were watering, and by the 5th, I started welcoming death. By the way, that's actually a lot funnier than the past dozen or so pages have been. I like Meredith and I once punched up a couple of things, and it took us like 2 drunken minutes of barely trying, and we're like, see, that now there's a joke in it. And like 103 pages of this. But anyway, I shouldn't need a SARS mask.
SARS mask, we call them COVID masks.
Yeah,
now.
This is from 2011. To get to my destination because of your gastrointestinal issues, you asshole. Next time, act like a civilized human being. Hold it in instead of making strangers suffer your noxious, gaseous misery. Stay away. P.S. Don't even try to blame the elderly woman in the corner. I know it was you.
It's like, the cartoon Kathy.
Yeah.
I picture her if she lived in
Sex
in the City, New York.
This is written a lot. Okay, more pieces of the puzzle. This is written a lot like the cartoon Kathy, where it's like, P.S. Get a clue, dum-dum. It's like, whoa, that's so funny.
Like, the unhinged handwriting is straight out of Kathy Geiswhite's pen.
Yeah. 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 What was funny about that?
Role model.
Yeah. I like to scream.
I really want to make a shirt that, but I can't make it. I can't make it work. But I always wanted to, and I just can't figure out how to make it good. But it's Kathy going ack, and it says act like you've been there.
That's where we're ending this.
The Reverend John Wheeler podcast takes zero responsibility for the words, actions, or ideas of its host, guests, or listeners. Though the people on the screen may at times be speaking directly to you and may occasionally give you direct calls to action, neither Reverend John nor the Alchemical Cocktail Lounge are under any moral or legal obligation to answer for the potentially disastrous repercussions that may arise if you are stupid enough to actually follow the orders of a raving lunatic. Think for yourself and do whatever you want, because you're on your own. If anyone ever tries to sue this podcast, black SUVs will converge on your location in the darkness of night and you will never be seen again. Remember to like and subscribe.